Okay, I think we may have enough attendees to begin this session. So, thanks everyone for joining today's session. My name is Kieran Felton, and I'm a member of the Life Reinsurance Committee. And in my day job, I'm a director in KPMG. So before we start, there's a wee bit of housekeeping I need to go through that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. So first of all, the webinar and the Q&A section are being recorded and will be available to view on ActuView after the event. Also, a small reminder that once you have registered with your full name, you're considered to have signed in for the purposes of verifiable CPD. You can submit questions via the Q&A portal at the bottom of your screen, where you can choose whether to include your name or not. Questions can be posted at any time during the presentation, but we'll only be asking questions at the end of the presentation. And finally, you can also use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to ask a question live, at which point we can unmute you. So now that the housekeeping is done, I'm really delighted to welcome you all to the fourth and final session of the Life Re Innovation Series, which has replaced our traditional Life Re Forum. And as a committee, we're really trying to produce relevant and interesting CPD content for all SAA members. And our previous innovation sessions have covered life insurance pricing, a panel discussion on innovations in life insurance, and also on mental health underwriting. And all of these prior sessions are available on YouTube and on ActuView. And as this is our last session, I'd just like to thank the various speakers across a full series of events and to fellow members on the Life Re Committee who've helped pull them all together. I'd also like to give special thanks to Simeon from the SAA for all her efforts behind the scenes in getting this organised and running smoothly. I'd also just like to mention that if anyone has any ideas or would like to be involved in future events, please contact me or any member of the committee that you can see on your screens. I would be more than happy to speak to you. So just to give you a brief description of today's event, today we're covering the 2020 Harvey Nash and KPMG CIO survey, which is the largest IT leadership survey in the world. So since Harvey Nash and KPMG have been running the CIO survey, we've always witnessed significant changes relative to the previous year, but this year has been a little bit different. We went into lockdown and we all had to adapt. The economy changed, technology changed, and even the concept of location changed, or did it? So as we piece together a new normal, we will undoubtedly find a lot of the old normal is still there. Today's presenter is going to be Thorsten Schulz-Gerhardt. Thorsten is a director with KPMG UK, focusing on technology strategy and transformation in financial services. He experienced firsthand the findings from the 2020 CIO survey and worked closely with his clients through this period. And today, Thorsten will be looking at the changing and remaining board priorities across industries and dive deeper into banking and insurance specifics, examining developments in technology strategy, technology delivery, people, cyber, and data. So just before I hand over to Thorsten, I'd just like to point out that, as always, the views expressed are those of the presenter, not necessarily those of the society or their employer. And also just to note that the ACA has developed a competency framework, and this next slide shows what competencies are covered today, which are mainly on the knowledge side, covering commercial awareness, functional expertise, and industry issues. I'm just going to hand over now to Thorsten to begin his presentation.
Thank you very much. All right, so let's get started. As Kieran already said, the Harvey Nash KPMG CIO survey is the largest IT leadership survey in the world. And we launched the first iteration of our 2020 survey in late December 2019, before COVID-19 actually was an issue outside mainland China. In March 2020, we had to pause the survey after collecting about 2,800 responses, as understandably, people were focusing on different issues than responding to the survey. We then launched a new survey that included questions relating to the pandemic. We received another roundabout 1,400 responses from May to August time. So that gives us a fairly unique insight, and you will see in the presentation today and in the overarching survey, you will see references to both surveys, pre-COVID-19 and post or during COVID-19 2020. And this together gives us a rather unique insight into the before, the onset, and the ongoing effects of the pandemic. A few of the key points we will be talking about, obviously remote working challenges. COVID-19 meant that a greater number of people had to work from home, and something then like 40% of our respondents say that this has caused an increase in incidents from spear phishing and malware attacks. And the pandemic has actually further emphasized a shortage of cybersecurity expertise to deal with these issues. Technology investments. Nearly 2/5 say that the pandemic has permanently accelerated digital transformation and the adoption of emergent technologies. Mental health is even more an issue than it probably was before in some of the companies. About 90% of technology leaders report that they are concerned about their team's mental health, and encouragingly, about 2/3 have programs put in place to support the mental well-being of their employees. Overall, technology leaders do feel more influential. Over 6 in 10 respondents agree or strongly agree that their influence has increased as a result of the pandemic. Before COVID-19, the value of technology in bringing people together in an online space, such as this one, rather than a physical space, was one that was underappreciated by most of people and organizations. This has changed now, obviously, and has become a part of everybody's daily life. Many of the underlying drivers, however, focus on data, process automation, artificial intelligence, are the same as they were pre-COVID-19. And with so much of a yawning gap between what we know and what we need to know, there is not a more appropriate phase. These are indeed unprecedented times. It is with this backdrop that we are going to talk today about the 2020 CIO survey. And in our session today, we will split this in 2 main parts. I will start with an overarching view across the key outcomes of the CIO 2020 survey across all sectors. And then we will narrow it down and dive deeper into what did it mean or does it mean at the moment for banking and insurance and the various aspects around IT leadership, looking at strategy, delivery, people, etc. So let's go into the first part in the overarching key findings. There is no doubt that the pandemic had a dramatic effect on almost every aspect of business and life. But some of the key fundamentals remain. The top 2 priorities for boards did not change with the onset of COVID-19. Both improving operational efficiency and improving customer engagement have both been long-standing priorities of the technology leader. While for some organizations, the crisis will have required a radical change in direction, for most, it has more served to accelerate what was already in place. For some, this has actually been useful. For instance, one respondent remarked, more innovation has happened in the last 6 months than in the last 10 years. COVID-19 caused the unexpected mass relocation of office workers from the safe shores of corporate networks to studies, bedrooms, and kitchen tables all over the world. And the attack surface of organizations expanded exponentially as a result of that. Our research shows that on top of the existing cybercrime challenges faced by technology leaders before the crisis, more than 4 in 10 have experienced an additional increase in cybersecurity incidents, as I mentioned, mainly from spear phishing and malware attacks. And dealing with this challenge has caused security and privacy to become the technology top investment priority. And for the first time in the CIO service history, which spans a total of more than 20 iterations, cybersecurity expertise has become the most in-demand skill set. 3/4 of respondents have indicated that the attack surface and the importance of cybersecurity has increased as a result of COVID-19. But what has changed with regards to the attack surface? Judging by the jump in spear phishing and malware attacks, it appears that the growth in risk has come mainly through insider threats against the newly remote working employees. This implies that the focus need not to be on technically securing the perimeter, but instead on educating people inside the organization. 5 years ago, automation was barely considered a part of the service delivery model in IT. But today it appears to be the answer to many things, with 71% of respondents anticipating its increase. Technology leaders appear to be farming out where possible and then automating as much as they can of what they control in-house. Technology leaders want to make their supply chains frictionless, increase velocity, and lower cost. And automation is a key enabler for this. The pandemic placed a huge strain on the supply chains and the supplier ecosystem. Organizations have realized these ecosystems were so broad that they became weakened under the strain. Our respondents tell us that they are changing their mix of suppliers and are now focusing on improvements through centralized outsourcing, which may be a win for big company suppliers with their multi-fit and risk-bound propositions. Looking at the IT spend, we have experienced a huge spike in IT spend. To deal with the COVID-19 crisis, global tech leaders have pivoted their customer strategies, invested in security, and most importantly, moved an enormous amount of people to work remotely. Technologies leaders reported a median additional spend of 5% of their overall IT budgets, which amounts to a fairly astonishing 15 billion USD per week during the first 3 months of the crisis. This is a truly incredible jump, which, if annualized, would be equivalent to 20%. So tech leaders were pretty much given an open checkbook as the crisis unfolded. But there is a consequence of this. This unprecedented surge in investment was completely unforeseen and has left many organizations with a bit of a headache. Boards, CFOs, and CIOs alike are now looking at longer-term investments and really scrutinizing existing spend, keen to prove return on investment or to make savings wherever they can. Unlike in previous recessions, where largely all sectors rose or fell with the tide, the sector has played a significant and very divisive role in how organizations have fared during the crisis. What's for sure, looking at the expected budget increases, power and utilities, government, healthcare, and technology are investing heavily as they deal with the surge. Leisure, including airlines, non-profit, education, and manufacturing are reining back as they're adjusting their models. Just to point out a couple of examples. The necessity of remote working has made people reassess their business model. And primarily in healthcare, for instance, the mass adoption of video conferencing and telemedicine has introduced an efficient way to initially consult with patients. Doctors, in fact, have long asked for this as a channel, and this was, during the pandemic, duly delivered. Whilst in universities, delivery of its services through a screen has made people reassess the value of what they're consuming. Without the lecture halls, the library, and the bar, consumer expectations are changing, and universities are revisiting their value propositions, so not necessarily lowering their tuition fees. Regardless of the sector and the industry, 6 in 10 feel it will take at least another few months before they can accurately forecast the future. And we are probably entering a new age where boards will need to get used to what is the discomfort of uncertainty. While few organizations would have planned for something as significant as this pandemic, some did enter the crisis in much better shape than others. These digital leaders, the 3 in 10 organizations with the most successful digital business strategies, already had much of the infrastructure in place to deal with the crisis and were significantly further down the line with implementing emerging technologies like distributed cloud, software as a service, marketplace platforms, AI, and/or automation. Almost half of the digital leaders report being very or extremely effective at scaling good ideas and stopping poor ones quickly, compared to just a quarter of all the respondents. These digital leaders entered the pandemic much further down the line with emerging technology investment and are already seeing the returns. They are much more likely to put their foot on the accelerator when it comes to investing further now. We are likely to see this divide grow with the digital leaders better positioned to pivot and scale into new opportunities, leaving behind organizations that resist or are unable to invest in their innovation journey. At the center of all of this lies the technology leader. Many of them emerge from this exhausted, but also excited by the challenges and opportunities of what has become a technology-centric crisis. Over 6 in 10 report feeling more influential as a result of the crisis. This, however, is not necessarily reflected in board membership. As you can see in the graph, this is down for CIOs from 71% in 2017 to 61% now. It's important to say, however, that this is related to the CIO role rather than the actual person who occupies the role that is experiencing this downward trend. The people, the successful ones at least, are maintaining their board membership, but they are evolving their roles and job titles. CDOs, CTOs, business heads. We are seeing an increasing number of former CIOs popping up in many new places. It does not come as a surprise that 84% of technology leaders are concerned by the mental health of their team. A smiling face on a video call can hide many things that would have been picked up during an informal chat at the water cooler. Encouragingly, 7 in 10 put in place programs to support their people. And over the years, mental health has been a growing concern in technology, but it may be one of the very few positives of this crisis that it could now be getting more attention that it really deserves. With a quarter of technology leaders expecting the majority of their staff to become home workers, organizations are beginning to realize quite how different a world without location really is. For the recruitment of new staff, their potential talent pool is now worldwide. For example, one company KPMG worked with have historically only ever hired within round about 20 miles of New York. But now the most recent recruit is a software engineer in Saudi Arabia. It's been a total game changer for them. For others, their sights are set a little less internationally, but it raises important questions. For instance, in big cities like London, salaries have traditionally been higher than elsewhere. But why pay more if workers can come from almost anywhere these days? In the early stages of the pandemic, when everything was new and there was an urgent job to get done, we saw a productivity spike. But as we now enter the long stretch, we need to consider how we engage and reward our staff, where physical presence plays less of a role. The Black Lives Matter movement has reignited the conversation about social injustice all around the world. It is the responsibility of all of us to hold ourselves and the people we work with to account when promoting inclusion. Beyond being the right thing to do, our research adds further proof that diverse teams simply promote better business performance. More than thirds of organizations feel that being more diverse has improved trust and collaboration in the technology team. 6 in 10 see that it also has improved business engagement, and over half provided access to the better skills. Who wouldn't want that? But at least from a gender perspective, the news is not good. The proportion of women in technology leadership positions remains stubbornly low, although some headway appears to be made in Latin America, which is benefiting from specific programs designed to get women into the world of technology, perhaps something that everybody around the world can learn about. Looking at diversity more widely, the survey also hints that the access for all flexible nature of remote working may promote greater inclusion. Video conferencing may be the great leveler here. But it is also possible that this new world creates its own challenges. For instance, some people prefer not to switch on their cameras. Some are better at creating these also important informal moments online than others. Others may make it physically into the office going to work and benefit from social interaction there. We all are taking part in one very big social experiment, and only time will tell where this will actually take us. Having touched on the overarching findings, I'm now going a bit deeper, and we'll talk about the banking and the insurance specific findings. And we'll go through a number of areas that are covering kind of the key elements there: overarching perspective, strategy, delivery, etc. So we'll start with a bit of an overarching view. Through the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the banking and capital market sector played a pivotal role. Financial institutions were key to the rapid delivery of governance stimulus programs, enabling businesses and individuals to access liquidity and manage finances, and did so while making profound changes to their own normal ways of working, quickly scaling digital channels for customer and transitioning a remote workforce as branches and offices closed. In such a highly competitive space, banks and capital markets firms' strategic IT priorities of operational efficiency, digitally enabled customer, agility, and speed to market led their path to the new reality. Companies in this sector are looking to invest in automation, called out by 78%, and managed services, 49%, as the key enablers to set up their digital backbone long-term and build resilience to black swan events, such as the experience during the crisis. In addition, banks and capital markets continue investing in security and privacy and customer experience, as well as engagement to maintain customer trust, loyalty, and confidence. For insurers of all types, operational efficiency is the standout priority that leaders are looking for IT to help to address. And so perhaps it's not a surprise that automation, with 41%, is a higher investment priority compared to the cross-sector average of 29%. Organizations will need to invest in connected platform technologies and automation throughout their front, middle, and back office for their digital transformation. Areas where automation is likely to be a focus include call centers and claims handling. There is a potential for these to be reimagined through AI as customers become more comfortable and expecting of digitized interactions and greater degrees of self-service. While it may vary in degree across personal and corporate lines, customers are also expected to increasingly be demanding greater flexibility, optionality, and personalized service. Digital investments can improve agility and speed to market and provide data insights for new insurance products and services such as cyber threat coverage, usage-based insurance, and disruption policies. Digitization is mission critical and must be at the heart of the strategic vision in this new reality for insurance companies. Looking at what does it mean for strategy and operating model. Prior to COVID-19, companies in banking and capital markets had been among the leaders in technology-led transformation. COVID-19 forced banking and capital market companies to accelerate faster, to quickly scale their digital channels to all of their customers, delivering across a digital platform of integrated data, processes, and technology. Barriers to digital transformation, such as siloed structures and systems, inability to scale the enterprise cloud, unclear vision from the top, or lack of advanced skills, posed a challenge for organizations who had not previously invested at scale. Meanwhile, digital leaders in this sector gained a clear advantage, being significantly better on key metrics such as operational efficiency, looking at 59% versus 36%, time to market for new products or service offerings, 42% to a comparatively low 19%, and customer experience, 49% to 29%, underlying a gulf that could be forming. But while demand for banking services has remained as high as ever, the outlook has distinct operational challenges. The majority of organizations see COVID-19 impacting their bottom line in the near future, in the near to medium term, due to headwinds from low interest rates, higher anticipated credit losses as business failures rise, and lines of business within banking and capital markets recovering at different rates. For example, retail versus investment banking. Making accelerated digital transformation an urgent necessity in order to increase operational efficiencies, create scalability, and build streams of data. 47% of companies in this sector expect to transform to re-emerge in their recovery path in the new reality, needing to transform operating models to emerge stronger and more in line with changed customer priorities. Digital leaders in this sector perform 24% better than competitors in operational efficiency through investments in automation of key workflows, and 20% better in customer experience through investments in digital channels such as mobile banking sites. Companies in this sector must maintain the gains made during COVID-19 in customer-centric, seamless, and secure digital customer service by expanding their offerings and platforms, as well as monetizing data. In the middle and back office functions, companies in this sector may focus on extending their digital transformation through targeted investments in automation and optimization. As COVID-19 forced an accelerated stress test for insurance companies, increased digital transformation became a necessity overnight. The economic pressure of the pandemic forced reduced liquidity for insurance companies due to high volumes of claims and the already existing low interest environment. A successful digital transformation in insurance means delivering a digital platform that reduces customer and agent onboarding and the cost of claims processing and handling through automation, while seamlessly integrating data, processes, and technology in order to deliver insights and opportunities for new insurance products. Like for banks, the same barriers, siloed structures and systems, inability to scale enterprise cloud, etc., do also pose a challenge for insurers who have not previously invested in their digital transformation. Insurers may look to outside partners to take advantage of innovative solutions and infrastructure with an expectation of increased managed services, about 51%, and centralized outsourcing, 49%. Across key performance metrics, digital leaders in the sectors are significantly better positioned than their counterparts and perform at least twice as better in operational efficiency, 54% versus 20%, and customer experience, 71% versus 35%. The IT priorities for the future are clear, with 45% of companies in the insurance sector planning to accelerate transformation to re-emerge as a result of COVID-19. Insurers need to drive up efficiencies through increasing digitization and the automation of manual processes such as claims, payments, and assessments, which is a focus for 41% of organizations. In a way that also improves customer engagement, a priority for 52%. Another crucial focus is to leverage data and analytics for sharper insights into market trends, customer behavior, fraud detection, underwriting risks, and the profitability of different insurance lines as insurers create new products to improve the bottom line and maintain liquidity. In the post-COVID world, there will be much for insurance CIOs and their teams to deliver on the digital transformation agenda due to the high level of disruption to the sector. Looking at what this means from a delivery perspective in IT. Connectivity between front, middle, and back office is vital for companies in the banking and capital market to deliver value at speed. In the new reality, rapid responsiveness to market signals and customer demands is essential. Ongoing insights from digital investments will be needed to prevent banks from becoming disintermediated by new, fast-emerging, platform-based service providers coming largely from the technology sector. It is striking how far ahead digital leaders are compared to non-digital leaders in banking and capital markets. Digital leaders exceed their competitors across every key metric. Effectiveness at pivoting and scaling digital channels dwarfs their competitors, 63% versus 40%. And they are far superior at collecting the valuable data needed to be responsive and customer-centric, 62% versus 22%. Amid so much change and disruption, innovation leaders in insurance may use this moment to accelerate their value propositions and leapfrog their peers. Making the right bets now may help insurers to capture market share and move into new markets. And this could include forming alliances and partnerships with startup insurtechs or other businesses through whom digital and AI capability can be embedded. Digital leaders in insurance are significantly better at pivoting and scaling digital channels than their competitors, about 50% versus 12%, and use their digital offerings much more effectively to improve the customer experience and collect valuable data. It is no accident that they are also much more likely to be making large-scale investments in distributed cloud, AI, and intelligent automation. Looking at what it means from a people, culture, and diversity perspective. With so much resting on technology, motivating and engaging the IT team in a more remote environment will be critical for banking and capital markets companies. Universal factors such as culture and leadership with 44% and good remuneration with 43% are seen as key. But it is notable that the purpose of the organization, 25%, is also viewed as a top item, while it doesn't feature on a cross-sector basis. COVID-19 has highlighted the growing importance of corporate values and purpose, including the ESG agenda, and this seems to resonate particularly strongly in banking and capital markets for employees as well as customers and stakeholders. The top skills shortage is cybersecurity with 34%, and this is true across sectors, but agile 24% and cloud 23% capabilities also stand out for companies in the banking and capital market sector. We see similar challenges and priorities also in insurance. Also for insurance companies, cybersecurity is the #1 skill shortage with 48%, a sign of their awareness of the heightened need for resilience and security to retain client trust with the new risks that the digitization agenda brings. It is also notable that agile and organizational change management skills also feature heavily. Insurers are undergoing significant transformation to their operating models to catch up on digitization in financial services. 57% of CIOs in the insurance sector report increased collaboration between their teams and the business, with digital leaders in the sector reporting being 71% better on customer experience, 68% better on customer trust, 61% better on employee experience, and 48% better on time to market for new products and service offerings. After so many months of running above capacity, IT professionals are exhausted and, in many cases, feeling disconnected and demoralized. During challenging professional and personal times, IT leaders in insurance are recognizing the strain and are clearly committed to looking after their teams, with over 6 in 10 putting formal mental health and well-being programs in place. With COVID-19 causing the mass relocation of employees from working in the offices to working from home, working in their bedrooms, as I said at the beginning, the organization's attack surface increased dramatically. As a result, more than 4 in 10 organizations across sectors, same for banking, capital markets, same for insurance, have experienced an increase in cybersecurity incidents, with phishing at 81%, 83%, and malware attacks at 62%, being the most prominent for banks and insurers. A laser focus on cybersecurity, as well as risk and control frameworks, must become embedded in business as usual, as more processes in this sector are digitized. We may also see some offshore processes that are critical in the risk function. For example, deploying system changes, system updates, system changes, and new releases, moving to locations that have a stable hybrid cloud infrastructure and security even in the unforeseen times of the crisis. We touched on data quite a bit already, but I want to go into the analytics bit a bit more, looking at banking and insurance. Leveraging data effectively is a crown jewel priority for banks and capital markets to develop differentiated and personalized products that truly reflect customer demands or predict customer needs. To gather information across distribution channels, to drive cross-selling opportunities and inform go-to-market strategies, and to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Banks and capital markets focus on expanding and integrating data repositories, 58%, is significantly higher than the cross-sector average of 46%, and it reflects their need to effectively bring together the huge volume of rich data they hold. Smarter approaches with increased data and analytics capabilities could be a key differentiator for commercial success. For companies in the insurance sector, a rapid response to an uncertain environment is expected to become a new core competency, and this can be founded on data and analytics insights. Use of more advanced models and algorithms leveraging more complex internal and external data signals will likely be the key in areas such as underwriting and claims, with an increased need for scaling AI to conduct continuous scenario planning and analysis to gain real-time understanding and prediction of trends. Financially, close monitoring of low interest rates, equity markets, and credit issues will be essential through the downturn in financial markets. Increasing data literacy across the organization, 47%, and scaling data analytics skills, 45%, are seen as key priorities. So where does this take us? What now? Changing consumer patterns result in structural changes to banking and capital markets as the increased demand for digital products and services continues to grow. With the increase in digital channels made available to customers in response to the pandemic, companies in this sector now focus their attention to transforming the middle and back office to create a fully integrated digital platform in the new reality, ready for the long term when employment returns to pre-COVID-19 levels and consumers begin to purchase new homes, buy cars, travel, and increase retail spending. With technology more important than ever to insurance companies, the ability to survive and thrive, the opportunity has never been greater for CIOs to work as strategic partners with the business. 7 in 10 IT leaders report increased collaboration between the business and technology teams. This relationship is something that the CIOs must build on to ensure their organization's digital transformation success. As digital leaders create more competitive distance from the pack, CIOs in insurance must move quickly and holistically, addressing the critical layers of the IT operating model to move the needle beyond point solutions. In the immediate term, enhancing operational effectiveness through automation, improving the customer experience through digitalization and self-service options, and embedding emerging technology innovations for greater responsiveness and market speed are critical objectives to deliver against. That brings me to the end of my, my presentation and the key facts I wanted to share with you. Before we're going to the QA, first of all, I want to thank you very much for attending today's session and for allowing me to take you through the outcomes of the Harvey Nash KPMG CIO Survey 2020. As you can see on the slide, there is obviously a more extensive report underpinning all of what I basically talked you through today. And that report is available. The link is embedded in the slide, and I believe this will be shared afterwards. We obviously talked about the CIO Survey 2020 today. We are just about to start the same exercise for the CIO Survey 2021. If you are interested in participating in the survey, sharing your own thoughts, your own views, and also then receiving a copy of the 2021 survey and invites to the global webinars that we will be running from a KPMG perspective in sharing our insights and results, please feel free to drop me an email. You can see my email address, torstenschulz@kpmg.co.uk, embedded in here. I'll make sure that I'll connect you and get you on the right lists. Kieran, I think this takes us to the Q&A part now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's correct, Thorsten. Listen, thanks very much for that presentation. So I thought it was very interesting. So right now we're just going to open up to the questions and answer sections of the webinar. So encourage everyone to continue to send in any questions that they have via the Q&A section, or if they want to raise their hands, they can do so. So I guess just as we're waiting on some questions to come in, I have a question to kick off, Thorsten. Looking at your presentation, you mentioned that the top 2 priorities for boards that did not change with the onset of COVID-19 were in relation to improving operational efficiency and also improving customer engagement. I'm just kind of curious, in your role within KPMG, on your current engagements, what would you have observed firms doing in this area with a particularly focus on improving customer engagement and their customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually something where in real life, apart from the data that we're gathering, there is a lot of reflection in the day-to-day business. I'm working very closely with a large UK insurance company, delivering a big transformation engagement for them, which is going since a couple of years already. And the key kind of denominator of a lot of things that the client is doing is making services more customer-centric, making processes more customer-centric, orientating the products more towards to the customer. So this had been previously already an agenda item, and that agenda item and the focus on the strategic transformation programs enabling this throughout COVID-19 and the last year or so, that did not change. What was increased more, and I think I touched on this, is the other priority is the operational efficiency, and then also as a result of spending in COVID last year increasing to move people working into remote working. What we can see is that now that we are hopefully coming out of it, dare I to say, there is now, in addition to these long-standing priorities, there is on the ground in the day-to-day business, there is much more rigor and scrutiny now around spending habits, the value of what people are doing. But it doesn't deter from the customer focus. This very much still stays at the top of the agenda. Not only with my current client, but also talking to colleagues and seeing the kind of work that we are asked to support in other UK clients. It's fairly similar.
No, that's useful to know. And then in terms of looking at where your clients are actually spending the money, is there any particular area that we're focusing on now that maybe at the beginning of the pandemic there was less focus on? I imagine the pandemic was kind of more of a dash, whereas now it's kind of maybe a bit more refined or targeted.
That is interesting, and this really differs then from client to client. I mean, everybody in some shape or form last year had to invest, depending on where they started, obviously, but they had to invest significant amount of the IT budget in enabling remote working. My client, they were already working on Citrix, but then they moved the kind of all the frontline stuff from the call centers into home working. And as a result of that, the infrastructure sitting behind the Citrix environments and the whole availability of the service had to be increased significantly. So that was the targeted spend last year. Where it is going this year, it's really value for money. And given that we are now arriving in a kind of a new normal, the prioritization of what gives the business most bang for the buck, basically. That with an understanding that there is probably less money in the pot than there was last year, as there need to be a bit of a balance. And that's not only for the current client. I mean, closer to home within KPMG, we went through a massive exercise to not only enable people to work from home, but then also start thinking about how could hybrid working look like in the future, and starting to think and work about solutions, how we can work together with clients where we will not have always the luxury of being together in the room in front of a whiteboard, scribbling up a plan, thinking about strategies and stuff like this, but having to do this in a different way, but still as efficient and effective as possible. I'm not sure whether you're talking, Kieran, at the moment. If you do, you are.
Right. Yes.
Probably one of the most said sentences in 2020, I have to say.
I just wondering, when you touched on the remote working and how it's going to look like going forward, once we get into what's likely to be a hybrid office environment, part in office and part working remotely, like, do you think that there's much more to do in technology around getting that balance right, or are people kind of stuck with Zoom and Teams and making do with that?
Yeah, I think that's actually the question that people need to answer at the moment. I don't think we have the answer for that necessarily already. It for sure is not in the data yet if you're looking into the survey, simply because of the timing of the survey. I would expect that will be one of the topics that when we're looking at the 2021 survey, that we will be focusing on and that we will be asking people about. In many clients, I see at the moment the kind of the hybrid working popping up as buzzwords. I'm not seeing a lot at the moment around how this hybrid working will actually look like in the future. I think these models are only emerging at the moment, and the implications on technology is something that is being worked through. To an extent, it will probably be in the near term. I would assume Teams and Zoom, but then how will that work in the future when you have partially your team maybe working in the office, people are still working at home? How will this actually work? And probably can say for sure that it will not work how it was in the past when you dial in a crackly phone line. Everybody knows probably then if you're at home, you're at the losing end. You will not be able to interact in the same way how you can in the room. So these kind of things, we still need solutions for this, and I don't think the solutions are there.
And we just have a question coming in from an anonymous person. The question is, it looks as if the use of some of the more disruptive technologies, for example, blockchain, wearables, etc., are further down the list of priorities for banks and insurers. So is that correct? And if it is, do you expect this to change in the future?
So I think it is correct at the moment. At least the data suggests that it is correct. Will it change? This comes down to strategic priorities and value for money, basically. As these are typically the more long-term investments, and the return on investment on these are a bit further down the line. Will it be the top priority next year? I would doubt that. I would still expect that you see more around kind of strengthening digitization as an overarching agenda point on the board priorities. But that's, to be honest, that's me guessing. That is probably something we will know more once you're doing the next round of surveys, and we will see what the data is going to tell us, what the respondents are going to tell us.
I'm not sure if there are any more questions. We'll just give it maybe one moment to see if there's any more questions being asked. I guess that's it. I think that we're done now with the Q&A session. We'd just like to thank everyone once again for joining the webinar. And a special thanks to Thorsten for doing an excellent presentation, which was really interesting. So I think we're going to just cut this off shortly. So I wish everyone a great remainder of today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.